Good morning, everyone, and we're going to finish, I think, our discussion on leaves with this lecture today. Now, remember on the last lecture we were talking about how plants have pores on their leaves, and I didn't say this, but the pores are mostly on the underside of the leaf. If they were on the top, they could get blocked by things that fall on the leaf, but they're mostly on the underside of the leaf. And the pores open and close. Those pores are called stoma, plural, stomata, singular stoma. And they have two guard cells around them that open and close to open and close that pore. And when the pore is open, carbon dioxide enters the leaf from the atmosphere and is taken into the spongy mesophyll cells and then is used to do photosynthesis. The plant has to have carbon dioxide to do photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is the process the plant uses to make its food. So without carbon dioxide, the plant will literally starve to death. But when the stomata is open, the plant also loses water. And as it loses water, if it loses too much water through the stoma, then it could dry out. So it's a balancing act of maintaining homeostasis, keeping things stable inside the plant. Having enough food, but not too little water. Having enough water, not too much food, kind of a thing. So the plant has to balance that act. So the question is how does the plant do that? The plant doesn't, the plant's not like you and me. It does not have a brain. So it doesn't go like, oh, wow, too little water, better close those stomata, and oh, man, I sure am hungry, better open those stomata. There's not a brain to do that. So what is in control of the guard cells? Because the guard cells are what open and close the stomata. That's what I want to talk about today for the beginning of this lecture. How does the plant do that? So, guard cells are very specialized cells. They can open and close, like I said, to control what goes in, carbon dioxide in, water vapor out. When the guard cells are swollen, like this, they arch as they swell. And as they arch, they open the stoma. And then as the guard cells shrink in size, they quit arching, they go back flat, and they close the stoma. So what makes these guard cells arch and not is the question, because like I said, there's not a brain to do this. So what happens is when there's lots of water in the plant, water flows into the stomata, into the guard cells and causes those guard cells to curve. So lots of water, stoma can be open because you're not worried about losing water, and so those guard cells swell, causes them to curve open. There's no brain telling that to happen. It just happens. Water flows into them as we have a whole lot of water in the plant, and they curve. And the opposite happens too. When water's scarce, the guard cells shrivel up. They're no longer curved, and the stoma closes. So it's as simple as that. If you have a lot of water, the guard cells swell. Try saying that fast. The guard cells swell, and they curve. When there's not much water in the plant, they shrivel up and they close. They go out of that curved position. So that's all there is to that. In general, stoma are open during the daytime, closed at night, because photosynthesis only happens when the sun is shining, because photosynthesis takes as its energy source sunlight. So at night, the plant's going to lose water through the stoma, but it can't do anything with carbon dioxide it pulls in. So there's really no reason to be open. So they're generally open during the daytime, closed at night. But if it's too dry, the stomas can be closed anyway if it's a matter of life and death. Even if the plant needs food, if it's going to dry out from water loss, that's a more immediate concern, and the stoma will be closed. Last thing, adaptations of leaves. Leaves have adaptations to live in dry conditions and to live in conditions where the soil is very poor, such as a Venus flytrap or sundews. So here is a pitcher plant. Pitcher plants live in very, very dry conditions, pitcher plants live in very soil poor conditions, so they literally have to eat insects to help get the minerals that they need that they would normally get from the soil, things like phosphorus and nitrogen and potassium. They need help getting a little extra of those because the soil is really poor, and that's why they have developed to be able to take in insects and to kill those insects and eat them. They still do photosynthesis. You can see these are green plants, so they still do photosynthesis. They make their own food. They just need the extra nutrients, the minerals from the soil that they're not getting from the soil. Here's another plant, a sundew, that has little sticky things on these little extensions, and that stickiness is where insects get trapped. You can see an insect trapped inside of this, and they close around them after they get trapped in that stickiness. Here's a Venus flytrap. Venus flytraps, an insect crawls into here, and there are little sensory receptors in this that cause the flytrap piece to close. Now the insect's in there. None of these plants have brains to cause this closure. It's all, there's little sensors in there that as soon as, it's like a reflex, as soon as they're touched, they start to close. And the Venus flytrap, they can close very quickly around a fly or other small insect. So those are leaves that are adapted to help the plant catch insects. And then there are other leaves that are adapted to live in really dry conditions. Here's a rock plant. These are leaves. They don't look like leaves, but they're adapted to live in a very dry environment, very thick cuticles on these leaves, so that very little water is lost through them. There's another look at the different variety of these rock plants. Some plants, these are the gymnosperms, the needled trees. They have stomata that are sunken way below the surface, and their leaves are very, very small. This is a leaf. Here's a leaf. Their leaves are very small, and they have a thick cuticle. Because the gymnosperms have very small xylems in their trunks and in their roots and in their stems, and because of those small xylems, they can't move as much water as other plants can. The plants have flowers, because gymnosperms don't have flowers. And because of this, their leaves have to be very small and thick cuticles, and the stomata sunken below the surface to account for that. There's a spruce, a pine, and a hemlock. Cacti. In cacti, the leaves are actually not photosynthetic. That means that they don't do any photosynthesis at all. In a cacti, the leaves are the thorns. They've been adapted as thorns to protect the plant from being eaten. Because think about where a cactus lives. There's not very many food sources. There's not many plants growing in the desert. So if they didn't have these protections, they would be eaten by lots and lots of animals very quickly. And so the photosynthesis is now done by the stem. You can see the green here behind the thorns. And that's the part of the plant that actually do photosynthesis, not the leaves. There's another look at different kinds of cacti. And those thorns. Alright, so that's it for leaves. We'll talk more next time.